The hum of the engines was steady, comforting, almost like a lullaby. Outside, the sky was an ocean of silver clouds and endless blue. 14-year-old Evelyn Carter sat by the window, chin resting on her palm, watching the world drift beneath her. She wasn't supposed to be alone on this flight. But her father, Captain Michael Carter, had promised to meet her on the ground, after his mission. He'd smiled at her that morning. "Keep your head up, kiddo. You've got my blood. You'll be fine." She didn't know what he meant by "you've got my blood." Not yet. The intercom crackled. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. We're cruising at 35,000 feet. Weather looks clear, all the way to Denver." Evelyn smiled faintly. She loved that sound, the calm confidence in a pilot's voice. It reminded her of home, of her dad's stories about the sky, about how pilots weren't just flying, they were guardians of silence above the clouds. Then, a sound. A thud. The man sitting next to her, a middle-aged passenger named Robert, frowned. What was that? Another sound followed. A crash. Something heavy hitting the floor of the cockpit. People turned. A few nervous laughs. The flight attendants exchanged glances. One of them, Emma, hurried toward the cockpit door. Seconds stretched. No announcement came. Then the intercom screeched, static, uneven breathing. "If anyone can hear me." Silence. The hum of the engines suddenly felt louder, colder. Emma came running back down the aisle, face pale as paper. "Does anyone here have flight experience?" she called out, voice trembling. Evelyn's heartbeat pounded in her ears. Something deep inside her stirred, something she didn't understand yet. Robert stood up. "What's going on?" "The captain collapsed," Emma whispered. "And the co-pilot, he's unresponsive too." Gasps spread like wildfire. A woman started crying softly. A man cursed under his breath. Evelyn gripped her seatbelt. Her hands trembled, but not from fear, from something else. A memory. Her father's voice echoing in her head. "If you ever find yourself above the clouds, remember, the sky listens to courage." Emma's voice broke through the panic. "We're trying to reach ground control, but the signal's unstable." Evelyn looked at the cockpit door. It was half open now. Through it, she could see one of the pilots slumped over, oxygen mask dangling, the other motionless beside him. Her throat tightened. She stood. "Sweetheart, sit down," Robert said gently. "They'll handle it." But something in her eyes, calm, focused, almost unnatural for a child, made him stop talking. "I can help," she said quietly. Emma turned, startled. "Honey, it's not safe up there." Evelyn's voice didn't waver. "My dad taught me. I know what to do." A silence fell over the cabin. Everyone stared at her like she'd spoken a different language. She took a step forward. Then, another. The hum of the engines deepened, echoing through her bones. As she reached the cockpit door, her fingers brushed the cold metal handle. Her reflection looked back at her, wide eyes, trembling lips, but a strange kind of steadiness. The same steadiness her father had. "Evelyn," Emma whispered, "you're just a kid." Evelyn looked up at her. So was he, when he learned to fly. She pushed the door open. The cabin lights flickered. Oxygen masks dangled. The radios crackled faintly with voices trying to reach them. She slipped into the pilot's seat, her small hands hovering over the controls she'd only touched once before, in her father's simulator. The moment felt unreal. The weight of the sky pressed around her. Her heart whispered one question: what if I fail? But beneath that, another voice, her father's, answered softly: then you learn to fly anyway. The cabin behind her was silent. Every passenger was holding their breath. Evelyn took a deep one of her own, and reached for the yoke. The cockpit was colder than she expected. Metal. Silence. And the faint hum of systems she didn't yet understand. Evelyn slid into the left seat, the captain's seat, and stared at the chaos before her. Buttons glowed in red. Alarms blinked. The autopilot light was off. She reached for the headset resting beside the throttle. Her hands trembled so much she could barely place it over her ears. Behind her, Emma stood frozen. "Sweetheart, you really know what you're doing?" Evelyn swallowed hard. "Not everything, but enough to keep us level." She remembered the weekends her father used to bring her to the Air Force Base simulator. He'd laugh as she sat there, feet barely touching the floor. "One day you'll fly higher than I ever did, Evie. Promise. Promise." Her chest tightened at the memory. She pressed a few switches the way he'd shown her. The aircraft steadied, just slightly. The sudden shuddering eased, but the beeping alarm still screamed like a heartbeat gone wild. Through the headset, static hissed. Then a faint voice broke through. "This is Denver Center calling Flight 247, do you copy?" Evelyn froze. Her throat went dry. She pressed the transmit switch, hesitated, then spoke. "Flight 247, we copy." Her voice cracked. She sounded like a child playing pretend. "Who's speaking?" the controller asked, calm but urgent. Evelyn glanced at the two pilots slumped beside her, oxygen masks hanging like ghosts of control. "This is Evelyn Carter," she whispered. "Both pilots are down." Silence. Then the controller's voice returned, softer now. "Evelyn, how old are you?" 14. Another pause. Long enough that even Emma gasped behind her. Then came a sigh, the kind only a veteran could make. "Okay, Evelyn. My name's Robert Harris. I'm going to help you. You're doing great, sweetheart. I just need you to listen to me carefully, okay?" She nodded, tears threatening her eyes. "Yes, sir. Good girl. Now, what's your altitude?" Evelyn scanned the instrument panel, her heart racing. 35,000. "Okay. Keep your wings level. Don't push anything else yet." Outside, the sky was endless and merciless, gold bleeding into gray as the sun began to dip. The passengers behind her were whispering prayers. A baby cried somewhere in the middle rows. Emma knelt beside her, hand on her shoulder. "You're doing amazing, Evie. Just breathe." Evelyn's gaze flicked between the instruments, the voice in her ear, and the window stretching toward infinity. Her hands were trembling, but her heart was steady. "Denver Center," she said, voice firmer now, "I have control." The controller paused, as if realizing the shift in her tone. "That's it, Evelyn. You're flying the airplane now. Keep that horizon line straight. You're holding altitude beautifully." Her father's words echoed again. "The sky doesn't care how old you are. It only listens to courage." She blinked hard, fighting tears. "Copy that," she whispered. For a few brief minutes, everything felt almost peaceful. The plane leveled. The alarms quieted. Hope spread through the cabin like sunlight breaking through a storm. Then, a jolt. A deep, metallic thunk beneath the fuselage. The plane tilted sharply left. Passengers screamed. Coffee cups flew. "Evelyn! What happened?" Emma cried, gripping the doorframe. The controller's voice came through, urgent again. "Flight 247, you're banking. Correct your roll. Ease the yoke right." Evelyn gritted her teeth, forcing her trembling hands to move. The aircraft resisted, moaning under the wind. She pulled right, slowly, gently, just as her father had shown her in the simulator years ago. The plane steadied again. The screaming faded into ragged breaths. "Good job, Evelyn," the controller said, voice soft with awe. "You just saved everyone from a spin." She didn't answer. Her heart was pounding too hard. Through the windshield, lightning flickered in the distance. Far ahead, but coming closer. Her breath hitched. "Denver Center. I see a storm forming." Static hissed back. No reply. "Denver Center, do you copy?" Nothing. The radio was dead. Evelyn stared ahead, her reflection trembling in the glass. thunder echoing somewhere beyond the clouds. Behind her, a little boy whispered to his mother, "Is the girl gonna save us?" No one had the answer. Not even Evelyn. Thunder cracked across the horizon like a warning. Dark clouds stretched endlessly ahead, alive, breathing, swallowing the fading light. Evelyn's fingers tightened around the yoke. Her knuckles were white, her pulse hammering. The radio was dead. The comforting voice of the air controller, gone. All she could hear now was the wind screaming against the fuselage and the faint sobs from the cabin behind her. Emma leaned forward, voice shaking. "We can turn around, right? There's another way." Evelyn stared at the radar, red streaks flashing across the screen. "If I turn now, we risk losing altitude. The storm's everywhere, Emma. It's closing in." Outside, lightning forked through the clouds, lighting up her reflection, eyes wide, jaw trembling but determined. Her father's words echoed in her mind again. "The sky doesn't always fight you, Evie. Sometimes it tests you." She took a breath and steadied the plane. Then, without warning, a violent gust slammed into the aircraft. The whole cabin lurched. Passengers screamed. Luggage tumbled from overhead bins. "Evelyn!" Emma shouted, gripping the cockpit wall. "I've got it!" she yelled back, forcing the yoke against the storm's pull. Her arms burned. The plane groaned like a wounded beast. Rain lashed the windshield in waves, each drop sounding like shattering glass. For a terrifying moment, everything outside went white, a flash, then nothing. The lights flickered. Warning alarms blared again. Autopilot fail. NAV system error. Her heart clenched. "No, no, no." Emma's voice trembled. "What does that mean?" "It means," Evelyn whispered, "we're on our own." In the chaos, something slid out from beneath the co-pilot seat, a black binder with her father's name stamped on it. "Captain Michael Carter, Flight Training Manual." Her breath caught. She picked it up with trembling hands. Inside, handwritten notes filled the margins, her father's handwriting. Symbols, diagrams, emergency checklists, and a short note taped to the last page. "For Evie, if you ever find this, remember, it's not just about flying. It's about listening. Trust the plane. It wants to live." Her throat tightened. Tears blurred her vision, but she blinked them away. "Dad." She flipped to a page marked Emergency Manual Flight Reboot. Her eyes scanned the instructions, fast, desperate. She could almost hear his voice guiding her. "Okay," she muttered. "Battery reset. Switch 1, 2, circuit breaker." Emma watched her in stunned silence. "Evelyn, how do you know all this?" Evelyn hesitated. "My dad didn't just tell stories. He trained me. Since I was 9. Emma's mouth fell open. "He trained you? For what?" Evelyn's voice was a whisper now, trembling between fear and pride. "For this. He said one day, the sky would call my name." She flipped a final switch. The cockpit screens flickered, then glowed alive again. The autopilot stayed dark, but the instruments came back. "Altitude, 33,000 and steady," she breathed. Relief flooded her chest like air after drowning. Emma laughed shakily, tears in her eyes. "You did it." But Evelyn didn't smile. Her eyes were fixed ahead, on the swirling wall of storm clouds waiting like a gatekeeper. "We're not safe yet," she murmured. "We have to get through." Lightning split the sky again, closer this time. The thunder came immediately after, deafening. Evelyn gripped the yoke, breathing steady now, her father's words like a heartbeat in her ears. "You don't fight the storm. You dance with it." She pushed the nose slightly down, matching the wind's rhythm, adjusting the trim by instinct. The plane dipped, then rose. The turbulence screamed around them, but this time, she moved with it, not against it. Passengers clung to their seats, whispering prayers. A child's voice broke through. "Mommy, the plane's shaking." And then, through the darkness, the tiniest glimmer of light appeared, a break in the clouds. Evelyn narrowed her eyes. There. That's our way out. Emma followed her gaze, disbelief in her voice. You can't go through that. It's too narrow. Evelyn smiled faintly, a tear slipping down her cheek. Dad used to say the same thing. She eased the yoke forward. The engines roared. The aircraft shuddered like a living thing ready to leap. And as the storm swallowed them whole, she whispered under her breath, I'm coming through, Dad. The cockpit went dark again, thunder roaring like applause. The plane broke through the clouds like a bird tearing free from chains. For a moment, everything was light, soft, golden, almost sacred. Evelyn gasped. Below her stretched a sea of white clouds glowing in the morning sun. Above, the sky opened endless and blue again. The passengers erupted into applause. Some cried. Some laughed in disbelief. Even Emma, standing behind her, whispered, You did it, Evie. You got us through. But Evelyn didn't move. Her eyes were locked on the fuel gauge. The needles were dropping. Fast. Her relief turned to dread. We're losing fuel, she murmured. Emma leaned closer. How bad? Bad, Evelyn said softly. We won't make Denver. A wave of panic rippled through her body, but she forced herself to breathe slow, the way her dad had taught her. Courage isn't about not being afraid, Evie. It's about flying through fear. She took off the headset, trying the radio again. Static. Then silence. For the first time, she felt truly alone. Then, a faint voice broke through. Flight 247, this is NORAD command. Identify yourself. Her heart nearly stopped. NORAD. The Air Force. Her father's world. She grabbed the mic. This is Flight 247. Both pilots are incapacitated. I'm Evelyn Carter. Captain Michael Carter's daughter. The radio crackled. Then came a voice she hadn't heard in months. Calm, deep, unmistakable. Evie, is that you? Her breath caught. Dad. The cockpit spun. She could barely believe it. I'm here, kiddo, his voice said, low and steady. You're doing great. You're flying my sky now. Tears filled her eyes. Dad, you said you'd meet me in Denver. They said you were on mission. I am. I was scrambled when your signal came through. I'm above you now, sweetheart. Evelyn looked out the left window, and there it was. A gray F-22, cutting through the clouds like a ghost, matching her altitude perfectly. Her father's aircraft. The passengers gasped when they saw it. Someone whispered, The Air Force. They came for us? Emma pressed her hands to her mouth, tears streaming. Evie, her father said, you're low on fuel. You'll need to land at a nearby base, Peterson Airfield. I'll guide you in. Her hands were shaking. I don't think I can. You already did the impossible, he said softly. Now just follow my lead. Lightning scars still flickered across the distant clouds behind them. Evelyn steadied her breathing, wiped her eyes, and followed his wing. Okay, she whispered. Let's land this thing. The world below sharpened into view. Runways, hangars, blinking lights on the ground. Peterson Airfield was ready. Fire trucks and ambulances lined the tarmac, waiting. Her father's F-22 flew slightly ahead, guiding her descent. Bring your flaps down a notch, he said calmly. Ease the throttle. Keep your nose steady. Evelyn's voice was small but certain. Copy that. The passengers were silent now, watching from their windows, a 14-year-old girl flying an airliner down with the Air Force as her guardian angel. Emma leaned close. You're almost home, Evelyn. Evelyn didn't answer. Her focus was razor-sharp, every nerve alive. The runway lights blinked closer, closer. Wind buffeted the plane, making it sway. Her heart hammered. Dad, it's drifting. Correct left. Gently. You've got it. She did. The wheels touched down with a thundering screech, rubber burning against asphalt. The aircraft bounced once, twice, then settled. The entire cabin erupted in cheers. Applause. Crying. Relief so strong it felt like a wave. Emma covered her face, sobbing. "You did it, baby. You really did it." Evelyn's hands finally fell away from the yoke. She sat still, chest heaving, tears slipping down her cheeks. "Beautiful landing, Evie," her father said through the headset, his voice thick with pride. "You just made history." She laughed shakily through her tears. "I just wanted to come home." "You did more than that," he said softly. "You saved 200 lives." Through the cockpit window, she saw his F-22 circling low before banking away, disappearing into the horizon, just as ground crews surrounded the plane. The doors opened. Paramedics rushed in. Reporters' cameras waited on the tarmac. As Evelyn stepped out, passengers clapped and reached for her hand. Someone called her a hero. Someone else whispered, "She's the pilot's daughter." The sun had broken through the last of the clouds, painting the airfield gold. Emma hugged her tight. "You remind me that bravery doesn't need permission." Evelyn looked up at the sky, that endless blue canvas her father loved so much. Somewhere above, she knew he was watching. And in her heart, one thought echoed louder than the engines, louder than the applause. The sky doesn't listen to fear. It listens to courage. A week later, Evelyn stood on the runway beside her father. His arm rested on her shoulder as military photographers snapped pictures. "Ready to go home?" he asked. She smiled. "You mean back to the ground?" He chuckled. "No, Evie. I mean ready to start training properly." She looked up at him, stunned. "You're serious?" He grinned. "After what you did up there, the Air Force called. They want to give you an honorary call sign." Her heart skipped. "What is it?" He leaned down, whispering in her ear. "Phoenix." Evelyn laughed softly. The name fit. She'd fallen through the storm and risen again. As the camera clicked and the wind swept across the tarmac, she looked toward the distant sky where the clouds were clearing, whispering one last thought. "I didn't just survive, Dad. I learned to fly." If the person you loved most had taught you something years ago, and one day it became the only thing standing between life and death, would you have the courage to use it?